それではよろしくお願いいたします。
All right. My invitation to you today is for you to transform yourself from a consumer to a producer. We live in a culture of consumption. We're defined by what we consume and how we consume. Most of our time spent in Tokyo is doing consumption activities, like shopping. We're constantly encouraged to consume more and more and more, buy, buy, buy. And as a result, we're going to have economic growth and hopefully become happy. The flip side is that we are starting wars, we are increasing climate change impacts, and we are exploiting workers all over the world in order to keep this consumption dream going. We're literally consuming the Earth's life support system. It's clear now more than ever that we cannot consume our way to a sustainable future, a future where our children, and their children's children will be able to meet their needs and live a peaceful and comfortable life. We need a new direction. That solution is for us to develop a producer mentality. Let's call it producer culture. A producer is somebody who brings something into existence, a provider, a creator. This is in contrast to a consumer, somebody who buys a good or service, or another dictionary definition would be somebody who wastes or uses up. For most of my life, I have been a full-time consumer, just like a lot of you. During my undergraduate education, I started to question myself and my consumer ways. I didn't like the products that I was buying. I didn't even know where they were coming from or how they were produced. I was having trouble finding what is the product that is actually in line with the values that I want to live with. Slowly but surely, I started to have this urge to shed my consumer identity and experience what it would be like to live as a full-time producer. So a long story short, I decided at age 24 to quit my job and to move to the jungle of Costa Rica. Ooh. The goal was, by pulling myself out of consumer culture, I was hoping to provide for my own needs, to be able to learn how to make things and take care of myself. This is the hut that I lived in, the jungle hut. It's no electricity, no running water, just a hut in the jungle. It was a really new experience for me. It was literally chop wood, carry water. I learned to adjust my life to the sun because there's no light. And so at 8 p.m., it's completely dark, not a single light. So I would go to sleep. And then at 5 a.m., the monkeys would start howling, so I'd have to wake up. Carrying water, there was a little hill that I had to carry water over. So I started to realize, wow, water is really heavy. So I started to value every drop of water. So what I would do, I made tortillas then. So I would wash the corn and then catch that water. Then I would wash my dishes, then catch that water again. Then I would use that water to water the plants. So I got 3 uses out of water. And that is in comparison to me now in Tokyo, where I turn on the faucet, and maybe I'll use that water once before it goes down the drain. So I really started to understand the differences between thinking as a producer and thinking as a consumer. In the jungle, if you want to eat, well, you got to grow it or you got to find it. And the benefit is, here pictured are 4 varieties of bananas that you would probably never see in a store in Japan. They're delicious. And this is the value of being a producer, is you create your own selections. For cooking, I captured the sun's energy. This is called a solar oven. It's an appropriate technology. What I would do is I would wake up in the morning with the monkeys, and then I put rice and water in a jar. Then I would put beans and water in a jar, put them in this oven, face it toward the sun. Then I would go work in the garden to grow more food. And when I came back, I would have hot food ready for me. Until then, I didn't realize how much free energy the sun was giving. And it was really a huge turning point to understand that that's such a huge resource, that I could cook every lunch with the sun. This is my favorite, the 360-degree jungle view toilet. It's basically just a bucket in the ground, and I would fill it, and then the poop I would compost to make fertilizer. And then I put that fertilizer on fruit trees and then produce more food. So it's a complete closed loop. And no, the fruit doesn't taste like poop. You know, it's different. So what I learned through this jungle experience is that really I am capable of producing the things that I need. And what I started to think was, if I needed something, I would think, how do I make it, not where do I buy it? That's a huge mental shift, and that was a profound learning experience for me. But the truth is that my desire to become a full-time producer didn't come out of nowhere. It began through a more transformative experience that I had during my undergraduate education at the University of California, Santa Cruz. For most of my life, I believe that education is basically it's consuming information and following the directions of a teacher. So it was sort of like the goal is to get a good grade or get a good score on a test, sort of like a game. Here are the rules, see how well you can score. And I think a similar thing happens in the University of Tokyo. Well, what happened was I met a couple of students who decided to transform their education. They saw that our education was not inspiring us, not making us creative, not helping us take action. And they also saw a huge gap between the realities that we face in the world, like climate change, like war, like environmental injustice, and then the contents of our education that were prescribed in our classes. So they decided to take education into their own hands. They created the Education for Sustainable Living program. And this was a student-initiated, student-funded, and student-organized educational program that basically had a weekly lecture series where it would kind of like TEDxTodai. They would have speakers from around the world tell us how to make change and inspired us to change our university itself. I call this DIO education, do it ourselves. Through this, students started to really move and make changes in the university. And what's such change? One of those changes is students involved in this program raised money to help our university buy 50 million kilowatt hours of renewable energy certificates, effectively making our university 100% renewable energy powered. That is a huge feat that these students were able to do. They also got organic food into our dining hall that were locally produced and connected the farmers and the students together. And another thing they did was they built a pizza oven to celebrate all these accomplishments. Now, what's important here is to understand that these were just students, undergraduate students, and they took their education into their own hands and started to make change. This is what producer-minded students are capable of doing. If your education is not serving you, then envision the alternative and take action, and even if it seems impossible at first, if you find like-minded students, you'll be able to accomplish it. So here's one way to do it. First, envision the alternative. Once you find a problem or some improvement that you would like to make, Envision the alternative. In the jungle, it might be a massive forest of food. In the university, it might be a student-run, innovative educational program. 2, look at your resources. In the jungle, that might be the seeds, the soil, the rain. In the university, it might be students that have similar ideas, faculty that are supportive of those ideas, and funding opportunities. And then 3, take action and experiment. Go plant that seed. Go start a meeting. You might not get the results that you want at first, but you'll always get learning out of that experience. And you'll create more possibilities for the future. So my invitation is for you to take a step into becoming a producer. Let's stop consuming the old world and start producing the new world. 一緒に大学を変えていきましょう。Thank you very much.